I was shaving my head bald to support my daughter's cancer journey when my boyfriend Damien texted me that I better not show up to his cousin's wedding looking like a bald freak and to get a good wig. The women at the salon rallied around me and helped me look stunning. Without any wig, but after the wedding, his texts turned vicious and cruel. When I forwarded his messages to his mother, who was a cancer survivor herself, I had no idea he would retaliate by filing false CPS reports and trying to take my daughter away. I was shaving my head bald to support my daughter's cancer journey. She had been crying about feeling alone as a girl without hair, so I planned to surprise her. The stylist had just started taking huge chunks out when my boyfriend Damien texted me. My cousin's wedding is next week and you're my +1, so you better not show up looking like a bald freak. You're already lucky I'm not breaking up with you over this. Make sure you get a good wig. I looked at my phone shocked, and before I knew it, the tears just came. The stylist, Maria, immediately stopped the clippers. She saw my face crumble and gently asked what was wrong. I couldn't even speak, just turned my phone toward her. Her expression went from sweet concern to absolute rage. "Girls," she announced to the entire salon, "we have a situation." Every single woman whipped their head around. The lady getting highlights even yanked the foils out of her way to lean over. Within seconds, I was surrounded. Wait, an older woman said after I explained everything. "What?" That's when Maria spoke up. "Listen, gorgeous," she turned to me. "Text him back. Just say you'll look beautiful at the wedding. Nothing else." I just thought of something that's so slay. Everyone watched as I typed with shaking fingers. "Don't worry, I'll look beautiful at the wedding." His response was instant. "Good. Make sure the wig looks natural. Don't embarrass me." The silence was deafening. Then everyone started talking at once. "Oh, he thinks you're getting a wig? He has no idea what's coming. This is going to be beautiful." The woman getting extensions went, "My best friend is a makeup artist. She'll clear her whole day." The nail tech jumped in. "My sister does event photography. She'll be there as a guest with her camera." The college girl getting bangs was already on her phone. "My mom owns that jewelry boutique on Fifth. You're getting the works." Maria continued shaving my head. "You're so strong, gorgeous. That piece of trash is going to get it," she kept saying. Another stylist brought over special oils. "This'll make your skin absolutely glow." I remember starting to tear up, genuinely in awe at how all these women were just gathering around me. It felt like a sisterhood. "Listen," said the woman getting the Brazilian, shouting from the back, "someone better record his face when he realizes you're not wearing a wig." I started laughing, and even as more and more hair disappeared off my head, all these women's words made me feel genuinely beautiful. Because of them, when I got off the chair and checked myself out, I meant it when I said, "I look hot AF." They all cheered for me and hyped me up, and when I went to pay, they told me it's on the house. Even better, they asked me if I wanted to stay to discuss stuff. Within minutes, the girls were teaching me how to carry myself. One of the stylists was even a cancer survivor herself, and was teaching me how to apply makeup that highlights my features without hair. She kept saying, "Cheekbones, honey, you've got incredible cheekbones." By the time I left, numbers were exchanged. A group chat was formed, plans were coordinated like a heist. Morning of makeup, borrowed pearls. A beautiful blue dress I couldn't afford that one of the girls let me borrow. When I left, the stylist had tears in her eyes. "He expects a wig. He's getting a warrior mama instead." I didn't see Damien again until the wedding, and just focused on spending time with my daughter, who said mama looked beautiful. But then the wedding arrived. Damien was already in the corner when I walked in, and when he saw me, his eyes went wide. I could see his whole body tense, and he wouldn't even look at me. When I came over, he wouldn't even kiss or hug me, just acted like I was a stranger. It should have bothered me. But the women at the salon had hyped me up way too much to let an immature man-child's mood affect my shine. I stood there feeling beautiful despite him. And what's even better is what the women at that wedding said. One of the bridesmaids' moms found me. "Oh, sweetheart, I heard about your daughter. You're both warriors." The bride herself actually pulled me aside. "I heard what you're doing for your little girl. That's true beauty. You're both amazing." Even Damien's mom came over to me while Damien was next to me and told me how strong and beautiful I looked. Every person who talked to Damien asked about my daughter. "How's her treatment? You must be so proud of your girlfriend's strength. You're lucky to have someone so brave." He was so mad at everyone thinking I looked amazing, he actually claimed food poisoning. I stayed though. I danced with strangers who'd become friends. But then that night, my phone absolutely exploded. Texts, voice notes. "WTF was that? You embarrassed me. You look disgusting. Ugly. Get a wig tomorrow or we're done. I'm serious." The messages just kept coming in, each one harsher and more brutal than the last. But I didn't even type a single word. Instead, I just screenshotted everything. I opened my chat with his mom and forwarded it all. She was a cancer survivor herself, and I knew the moment she saw these texts, Damien was done for. The notification sound from Linda's phone must have woken her up because within minutes, my screen lit up with her calling. I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again and again. By the fourth call, I knew I had to answer. Her voice came through shaking with fury. She told me she was coming over first thing in the morning and that we needed to talk. I tried to tell her it wasn't necessary, but she had already hung up. I barely slept that night. Emma woke up twice from bad dreams, and I held her close, running my hand over her own bald head, whispering that everything would be okay. By the time the sun came up, I was exhausted but wired with anxiety. The doorbell rang at exactly 7 a.m. Linda stood there, face pale and drawn, clutching a manila folder. I quickly settled Emma in front of the TV with her favorite cartoons and a bowl of cereal before leading Linda to the kitchen. She spread printed screenshots across my kitchen table. Every single text Damien had sent me. But that wasn't all. She had also printed out his social media posts from the past 12 hours. My stomach dropped as I read them. He had posted photos from the wedding with captions about how I had manipulated him and ruined his cousin's special day for attention. One post claimed I was mentally unstable and using Emma's cancer for sympathy. Another suggested I was an unfit mother who cared more about making scenes than caring for my sick child. My hands shook as I read each cruel lie. The comments were even worse. His friends rallying around him, calling me names I couldn't even process. Some suggesting he should fight for custody of Emma, even though she wasn't his biological daughter. Linda's voice cut through my spiral. She declared she was cutting Damien off completely. No more money, no more support, and she was removing him from her will effective immediately. She apologized over and over, saying she had failed as a mother to raise such a cruel son. She promised to testify about his behavior if I ever needed it. After she left, I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the screenshots. Emma wandered in, asking why mommy looked sad. I forced a smile and suggested we make pancakes together. As we mixed the batter, she told me about her dreams, and I tried to focus on her voice instead of the crushing weight in my chest. My phone started buzzing nonstop. The salon group chat was exploding. Someone had found Damien's posts and screenshotted everything before he could delete them. The women were furious. Maria texted that she was calling her lawyer cousin immediately. Within an hour, Rachel Morrison called me. me. Maria's cousin specialized in harassment cases and offered a free consultation. She explained Ohio's harassment laws and suggested I start documenting everything. She said we could build a strong cease and desist case and potentially pursue defamation charges. The next few days blurred together. I tried to maintain normalcy for Emma, taking her to treatments and keeping her routine stable. But Damien's campaign was escalating. He showed up at Emma's school during pickup time. I saw him from across the parking lot, talking animatedly to a group of parents. By the time I reached them, he was already spreading his poison, telling them I was unstable and shouldn't have custody of Emma. One mother grabbed her child and walked away from me like I was dangerous. The principal appeared, having been alerted by concerned parents about Damien's aggressive behavior. Security escorted him off the property while he shouted about his rights. The principal assured me they would increase security and add him to the no-access list. That evening, my phone rang. Child Protective Services. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint about medical neglect and emotional abuse. My heart stopped. The social worker scheduled a home visit for the next morning. I knew exactly who had called. I tucked Emma into bed that night, fighting back tears as she asked if she did something wrong at school. She had noticed the other kids staring and whispering. I held her close, promising everything would be okay while panic clawed at my chest. The CPS social worker arrived right on time. I had spent the night organizing every medical record, every treatment note, every prescription receipt. The apartment was spotless. Emma, thankfully, was having a good morning and cheerfully showed the social worker her artwork and told her about her treatments. The social worker reviewed everything thoroughly. She called Dr. Patricia Nguyen right there in my living room. Dr. Nguyen's glowing recommendation about my dedication to Emma's treatment seemed to shift something. The social worker's expression softened. Then she revealed something that made my blood run cold. The boyfriend's text timing feels oddly convenient, right as she's getting her head shaved, and this salon suddenly turns into Command Central with everyone having the perfect connection for revenge makeovers. This was the third false report about me this week, all from different phone numbers but with identical wording. She suggested I file a police report for harassment immediately, as CPS would note the pattern of false reporting in their system. I drove straight to the police station after she left. Detective James Carter took my report seriously, especially after seeing the CPS documentation and the wedding screenshots. He noted that Damien's behavior fit escalating harassment patterns and opened an official investigation. But Damien wasn't done. He created a fake Facebook profile posing as a concerned neighbor and started spreading lies about my parenting in local community groups. Multiple salon clients recognized his writing style and reported the profile, but not before several school parents saw the posts. Rachel filed a cease and desist order and began building a defamation case. She warned me that Damien would likely escalate when served, suggesting I vary my routines and install security cameras. That night was particularly hard. Emma had a brutal chemotherapy session and spent hours vomiting. I held her frail body as we both cried, her from the pain and me from the overwhelming weight of everything. My phone buzzed with another threatening message from Damien, but I couldn't even look at it. The next morning, I walked out to find my car tires slashed. All 4 of them. The security footage was conveniently corrupted for just that time period. I had to call an Uber to get Emma to her treatment, spending money I didn't have. Maria found out and organized a GoFundMe through the salon network without telling me. Within hours, it raised enough for new tires, security cameras, and a month of groceries. When I saw the number, I broke down crying in the hospital waiting room. Damien was served with a cease and desist at his workplace. He immediately violated it by sending me 47 text messages in an hour. They started with fake apologies and quickly devolved into threats. The last one simply read, "You'll regret this." Detective Carter reviewed the texts and upgraded the case to felony harassment. He advised me to file for a restraining order immediately and provided a police escort home. That evening, Maria's husband helped me install the new security cameras while Emma drew pictures of her brave mommy, blissfully unaware of the real danger. The restraining order hearing came quickly. Damien showed up with an expensive lawyer who tried to paint me as hysterical and vindictive. But then Linda walked in. Her testimony about her son's pattern of abuse throughout his life was devastating. The judge granted a 2-year restraining order, explicitly including Emma's school, medical facilities, and our home. Within hours of the restraining order being granted, my employer received an anonymous tip about my mental instability and substance use. Despite my spotless record, HR launched an investigation and placed me on unpaid leave pending the outcome. Rachel immediately sent a strongly worded letter to my employer about defamation liability. The salon network mobilized like an army. Clients who worked in HR and legal fields made strategic phone calls. The investigation was dropped within days, but the damage to my reputation was done. During all of this chaos, I found a moment of light. Emma had discovered my collection of colorful headscarves and declared she wanted to be beautiful and brave like mommy. We had an impromptu fashion show in the living room, trying on different combinations and styles. For those precious minutes, we forgot about restraining orders and threats and just laughed together. But the respite was brief. Despite the restraining order, Damien found ways to torment us. He sent flowers to Emma's hospital room during chemo with a card reading, "Get well soon, sweetie, Uncle D." Security footage showed he used a delivery service to circumvent the order. Detective Carter documented the violation, but warned it was technically a gray area since Damien didn't physically violate the distance requirement. He also started contacting my extended family members. My sister called confused and concerned after receiving messages about my supposed mental breakdown. He had spun elaborate tales suggesting family members should intervene and seek custody of Emma for her own safety. I spent hours on the phone sending medical records and legal documents to prove his lies. Most relatives believed me, but I could hear the doubt creeping into some voices. The harassment took a darker turn when Dr. Nguyen pulled me aside during Emma's next appointment. Someone claiming to be my husband had called the office trying to obtain Emma's medical information and treatment schedule. The office staff had flagged it immediately and refused to provide any details, but the attempt left me deeply unsettled. We implemented new security protocols requiring photo ID and a password for any information requests. 3 days later, I returned home from grocery shopping to find my apartment door slightly ajar. My heart pounded as I pushed Emma behind me and called 911. The police searched the apartment and found nothing stolen, but small things had been disturbed. Emma's stuffed animals were rearranged on her bed. Family photos were turned backward on the shelves. My pillow was on the wrong side of the bed. Someone had been in our home, touching our things, violating our safe space. The police found no signs of forced entry. The landlord revealed someone had called claiming to be my brother, asking about spare key policies and maintenance schedules. Detective Carter increased patrol presence in our neighborhood and suggested I change the locks immediately. That night, I slept on Emma's bedroom floor with a baseball bat beside me, jumping at every creak and shadow. Emma woke once crying from a nightmare, and I soothed her back to sleep while fighting my own terror. The Salon Network stepped up their support. They created a protection schedule ensuring someone was always available to accompany me to appointments or stay overnight. Maria's teenage daughter started picking Emma up from school and watching her until I got home from work. The kindness overwhelmed me, but I gratefully accepted every offer of help. My financial situation took another hit when my credit card was declined at the pharmacy while buying Emma's anti-nausea medication. A quick call to the bank revealed someone had opened 3 credit cards in my name and maxed them all out within days. The purchases were made at various electronic stores and online retailers, all traced to IP addresses from coffee shops near Damien's workplace. Rachel connected me with a financial crimes specialist who began the tedious process of disputing the fraudulent accounts and rebuilding my credit. The identity theft added another layer to the criminal case against Damien. The evidence was mounting, but the damage to my life continued to accumulate. Linda called me in tears one afternoon. She had discovered Damien had been systematically draining her bank accounts using their previously shared access from when he lived at home. Over $30,000 had vanished into various cash withdrawals and transfers. She immediately pressed charges and provided Detective Carter with bank records showing the theft pattern. Her cooperation strengthened the case significantly. A week later, Detective Carter called with news. They had enough evidence to arrest Damien on multiple charges, including identity theft, harassment, and violation of the restraining order. I watched from my window as police cars pulled up to his workplace. His mugshot later showed dead eyes and a disturbing smile that made my skin crawl. Bail was set at $50,000. To my horror, Damien made bail within hours. The notification came while Emma and I were at the hospital for her treatment. I immediately pulled her out of school after her appointment and went to stay with Maria's family. Her home became our temporary refuge, and Emma loved playing with Maria's children, unaware of the real reason for our sudden sleepover. The source of Damien's bail money was revealed days later. He had started dating an elderly woman and convinced her that I was his abusive ex who was keeping his daughter from him. The woman, believing his lies completely, had given him her life savings to fight for custody of what she thought was his biological child. My heart broke for this woman who had been manipulated by his elaborate deceptions. The situation escalated when Emma's school called. A woman claiming to be Emma's aunt had attempted to pick her up early. Security had detained her, revealing she was Damien's new girlfriend. She broke down under questioning, genuinely believing she was rescuing Emma from medical abuse. Detective Carter charged her with attempted kidnapping, and she finally understood the truth about Damien's lies. Damien's response was to post a video online claiming he was the victim of a conspiracy between me and his mother to steal his inheritance. The video went viral in certain online communities, bringing a wave of harassment from strangers who believed his story. My phone filled with threatening messages from people I'd never met, all convinced I was the villain in Damien's fabricated narrative. Rachel worked with Detective Carter to trace the most serious threats while building our case stronger. We discovered patterns in the harassment that pointed back to Damien orchestrating much of it. The investigation expanded as more evidence of his manipulation came to light. One of Damien's previous girlfriends reached out after seeing the viral video. She shared documentation of nearly identical harassment from years earlier, including threats that matched word for word what I was experiencing. She had never pressed charges out of fear, but now she was willing to testify about his pattern of behavior. Her evidence showed this wasn't his first campaign of terror against an ex-partner. Damien's going from zero to identity theft faster than a credit card can decline at the pharmacy. Someone should tell him harassment isn't supposed to be a full-time job with overtime pay. The elderly woman Damien had scammed attempted suicide after learning the truth about his deceptions. Her family found her in time and she survived, but they joined the criminal case against him, adding elder abuse charges to his growing list of crimes. The prosecutor began building a comprehensive case showing Damien's pattern of harassment, fraud, and manipulation spanning years. Linda hired a private investigator who uncovered more disturbing details about Damien's past. 2 other ex-girlfriends had similar stories of escalating harassment after their relationships ended. One revealed that Damien had killed her cat when she tried to leave him, though she had been too frightened to report it at the time. The pattern was clear and chilling. The prosecution built a strong case showing Damien's systematic campaign of terror. His assets were frozen pending investigation, cutting off his resources for further harassment. But even from jail, he found ways to continue his torment. During a supervised jail call, Damien made a mistake that sealed his fate. He told another inmate's visitor to handle me, not knowing the visitor was an undercover officer conducting a sting operation. New charges of solicitation of murder were added to his case. The FBI got involved due to the interstate nature of some of his crimes, and Emma and I were moved to a secure location. Emma thought we were on a special vacation while receiving treatment at a new hospital. I tried to maintain normalcy for her, but the stress was taking its toll. One night, I broke down completely in the safe house bathroom, sobbing silently so Emma wouldn't hear. I texted Maria that I didn't know how much more I could take. Her response was immediate. The entire Salon Network was praying for us and wouldn't let us face this alone. The other ex-girlfriends agreed to testify, showing a decade-long pattern of escalating violence. Their testimonies painted a picture of a dangerous predator who had perfected his methods over years. The prosecutor felt confident they could secure a lengthy sentence. Damien's mental state deteriorated in jail. He attempted suicide but was discovered and placed on suicide watch. His lawyer argued he was mentally incompetent to stand trial, forcing a psychological evaluation. 3 separate psychologists evaluated him, all concluding he was competent but suffered from severe narcissistic personality disorder with antisocial features. The trial would proceed. During a pretrial hearing, Damien lost control completely. Seeing me in the courtroom, he lunged across the defense table, screaming that I had destroyed his life. Bailiffs tackled him as Emma watched on closed-circuit TV from another room, and the judge ordered him to appear in restraints for all future proceedings. His outburst only strengthened our case. Through all of this, Emma continued her cancer treatment. She finished her last round of chemotherapy on a particularly emotional day. I held her as she rang the bell at the hospital, both of us crying with relief. The other patients and families cheered for her, unaware of the additional battle we were fighting. For a moment, I let myself hope that both our nightmares might be ending, but Damien wasn't finished. A key witness received death threats and initially refused to testify. Detective Carter had to provide protection, and the intimidation tactics were wearing everyone down. Rachel brought in a victim's rights advocate to help me prepare for trial testimony. We practiced for hours, going over every detail, preparing for the defense's attempts to discredit me. Then Damien's new girlfriend, not the elderly woman but another woman he'd manipulated from jail through letters, somehow obtained our safe house address and posted it online. We had to relocate immediately, disrupting Emma's recovery routine. The FBI traced the leak to a court clerk Damien had been manipulating with love letters. She was arrested, but the damage was done. Linda's health couldn't withstand the stress of her son's actions. She had a massive heart attack and was rushed to the hospital. From her bed, she recorded a video testimony about Damien's lifelong pattern of manipulation and abuse. She wanted to ensure her testimony would be heard even if she couldn't be there in person. 2 weeks later, she passed away from complications. Her final act was ensuring justice for Emma and me. I had to explain to Emma that the bad man who had scared us wouldn't be able to hurt us anymore soon. She asked if I promised, and I said yes, praying I was right. The trial date approached, and I steeled myself for what was to come. 8 months had passed since that day in the salon when I shaved my head. 8 months of terror, but also 8 months of discovering how strong Emma and I could be together. The trial began with opening statements painting Damien as either a dangerous predator or a man pushed too far by a vindictive ex. I watched him smirk at his lawyer's lies, the same expression he'd worn in his mugshot, but I was ready. The salon sisters filled the gallery, their presence giving me strength. Emma's therapist would testify about the trauma inflicted on a child already fighting cancer. The previous victims would share their stories via video link for their safety. The evidence was overwhelming. As I prepared to take the stand, I thought about how different my life had become. What started as a simple act of love for my daughter had exposed me to a kind of evil I never knew existed. But it had also shown me the incredible power of women supporting women, of communities coming together, of justice eventually prevailing. Tomorrow I would testify. Tonight, I held my brave, beautiful daughter and promised her that soon we would truly be free. The next morning, I took the stand. For 6 grueling hours, I detailed every threat, every violation, every moment of terror that Damien had inflicted on us. His lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive and unstable, but I remained calm, presenting evidence methodically. The prosecutor guided me through the timeline, from the wedding harassment to the identity theft to the attempted kidnapping at Emma's school. Damien sat there in his orange jumpsuit and restraints, his face contorting with rage as I spoke. When I described Emma's nightmares and regression, he actually laughed. The jury noticed. Several jurors visibly recoiled at his reaction. Emma's therapist testified next via closed-circuit TV to protect Emma from having to see Damien. She described the severe psychological impact on a child already battling cancer. The therapist explained how Emma had developed separation anxiety, refused to sleep alone, and had started wetting the bed again after years of being potty trained. The courtroom was silent as she detailed the long-term effects of trauma on a sick child. The previous victims testified via video link for their safety. The first ex-girlfriend, Victoria, showed photos of her deceased cat and described finding it in her apartment after refusing to reconcile with Damien. She had kept the threatening letters he'd sent, which matched his handwriting and contained phrases identical to what he'd sent me. The second victim detailed how Damien had gotten her fired from 3 consecutive jobs by calling in false complaints. Detective Carter presented the evidence systematically. Phone records showing hundreds of calls and texts despite the restraining order. Bank records documenting the identity theft and the money stolen from Linda. Security footage from various locations showing Damien stalking us. The fake social media profiles traced back to his devices. The pattern was undeniable. The elderly woman Damien had scammed testified from her hospital bed, still recovering from her sewer slide attempt. She explained how Damien had convinced her that Emma was his biological daughter being denied cancer treatment by an abusive mother. She had given him $40,000 from her retirement savings to save Emma. Her testimony was heartbreaking. On day 3 of the trial, Damien took the stand against his lawyer's advice. His narcissism wouldn't let him stay silent. He claimed everything was a conspiracy between me and his mother to steal his inheritance. He insisted the other victims were lying for attention. He even suggested Emma wasn't really sick, that I was poisoning her for sympathy. The prosecutor's cross-examination was brutal. She played recordings of his jail calls where he detailed plans to destroy me and laughed about Emma's terror during the swatting incident. She showed his social media posts calling me mentally unstable while simultaneously claiming to love me. She presented the timeline showing how his harassment escalated each time I tried to protect myself. Damien exploded on the stand. He screamed that I had ruined his life, that I deserved everything that happened, that Emma would be better off without me. The judge had to call a recess as bailiffs restrained him. His performance eliminated any possibility of jury sympathy. The defense's closing argument tried to paint Damien as mentally ill and driven to desperation by a manipulative ex. They suggested his actions were cries for help rather than criminal behavior. The prosecutor's response was devastating. She showed a timeline of calculated, deliberate actions spanning months. She highlighted how he'd manipulated multiple people, stolen money, and ultimately tried to have me killed. This wasn't mental illness. This was evil. The jury deliberated for 14 hours. Emma and I waited at the safe house, trying to maintain normalcy. We played board games and watched movies, but I checked my phone constantly for updates. Maria texted encouragement every hour. The Salon Network held a prayer circle. When the verdict came, I was in the kitchen making Emma's favorite soup. Rachel called with the news. Guilty on all counts. Stalking, harassment, identity theft, witness intimidation, attempted murder solicitation, elder abuse, and fraud. His mother recording that video from her hospital bed makes me wonder what she knew about him all along, but never said until now. The way he manipulated that court clerk with love letters while locked up shows he's still finding ways to work people even from jail. I dropped the spoon and sank to the floor, sobbing with relief. 6 weeks later, we returned for sentencing. Linda's video testimony played in court, her dying words condemning her son's actions and apologizing to his victims. The other victims provided impact statements. I stood before the judge and described how Damien had weaponized my daughter's cancer, turning the worst time of our lives into a nightmare. The judge sentenced Damien to 25 years to life, with no possibility of parole for 15 years. He would serve his time in maximum security 3 states away. Permanent restraining orders were issued, protecting Emma and me for life. As they led him away, Damien screamed threats until his voice faded down the corridor. The civil suit settled quickly after the criminal conviction. Damien's frozen assets and Linda's estate provided $500,000 in damages. It would cover Emma's medical bills, therapy for both of us, and security for our future. The money couldn't undo the trauma, but it removed the financial burden. A month after the trial, Emma and I moved into a new apartment in a secure building with multiple safety features. The Salon Network helped us decorate, transforming it into a real home. Emma chose purple walls for her room and insisted on hanging the drawings she'd made during our time in hiding. Emma returned to school with a comprehensive support plan. The principal personally ensured her safety, and a counselor checked on her daily. She was anxious at first, clinging to my hand at drop-off, but gradually regained confidence. Her teacher reported she was making friends again. I returned to work full-time, my employer now fully supportive after understanding the truth. Colleagues who had doubted me during the investigation apologized. My supervisor approved a flexible schedule for Emma's ongoing medical appointments. Detective Carter visited one last time to confirm Damien was secured in maximum security. He assured me that any attempt to contact us would result in additional charges. The FBI continued monitoring for any associates who might carry out Damien's threats. Emma's follow-up scans showed she remained cancer-free. Dr. Nguyen noted how much calmer we both seemed. Emma had stopped asking about the bad man and was focused on normal 8-year-old concerns like her upcoming birthday party. Maria threw a celebration at the salon for our victory and Emma's recovery. The women who had supported us from the beginning gathered to mark the end of our ordeal. Emma wore one of her colorful headscarves and announced she wanted to be a hairstylist like Maria when she grew up. Rachel helped me establish a victims advocacy fund with part of the settlement money. Other women facing similar situations would have access to legal help. The first recipient was a young mother whose ex was beginning to show Damien's patterns of behavior. 6 months after the trial, I watched Emma play at the park with her new friends. She ran and laughed without fear, her hair growing back in soft curls. I sat on the bench, no longer scanning for threats or checking over my shoulder. We weren't unscathed, but we were healing. That night, I tucked Emma into her purple room. She hugged me tight and whispered that she loved her brave mommy. As she drifted off to sleep, I stood in her doorway, finally feeling the weight of the past year lifting. We had survived. We had won. We were free. Time to close the book on this wild ride, folks. Appreciate you letting me toss in my 2 cents along the way. Hopefully they added a little extra spark. Like the video, it helps more than you think.